Aruna. Welcome you all. This is a very important meeting, as mentioned by Franco, convened at a very short notice. But then there is already virtually an emergency situation have been created by our Honorable Election Commission of India. And we have to respond to that. Anyway, this matter, SIR, has been agitating our mind for quite some time, ever since it started in Bihar. We have been following it quite close, and I have been monitoring it, and we have been sort of critically examining it. Then we had this one of the causes that led to our conclave in Chennai on Saturday, where also it was discussed and the resolutions were passed. Our considered opinion is that this SIR, in the present form as it being rolled out by the Election Commission, is a fraud on the Constitution of India. No use using mild words anymore. We can't keep pulling punches when there are certain interested parties are bent on kicking the Constitution out. This SIR number one, it has no legal status. There is no mention of special intensive revision anywhere in any law. This matter was agitated in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court asked this question, but Supreme Court left it high and dry. Election Commission did not answer. Election Commission told a lie that similar special intensive revision was done in 2003. It was a lie. That was a totally different exercise. And Supreme Court left it high and dry. Supreme Court completely failed in its constitutional duty of calling the Election Commission to order. Number one. Number two, second question that was asked to the Election Commission was, where are the rules? Everyone knows, even for doing a minor thing, we have to have clearly laid down rules so that they are complied with. You are talking about reversing the electoral roll of 100 crore voters, which is the combined populations of all democracies in the world, maybe more than that. And you are doing it without a rule, without any rules, no rule framework whatsoever. For instance, one simple thing, there is a word called ordinary resident who is eligible to be registered as a voter. Even now, no one knows what is the definition of ordinary resident. That has created a major crisis. For instance, Bihar is an outgoing migrant. Outgoing migrants, people go away from Bihar to other places for work and for other things. Tamil Nadu is an incoming migrant. A lot of migrants come into Tamil Nadu. Now, this ordinary resident, common sense says, ordinary resident is someone who has developed a vested interest in the place where he is living. He has brought his family, settled down, and for good, and he has no intention of going back. He will be the ordinary resident. He will be entitled for registration of voters. Very reasonable. But people have been coming for a few days or few months with their heart and soul in their own hometown in Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. They would like to go back. They have their house. They have their settlements. They have their farm. They are in Tamil Nadu or Maharashtra or wherever only for wages or earning wages. How can they be registered in this Tamil Nadu and Bihar in Maharashtra, calling themselves ordinary residents? It is creating a major crisis. Crisis in the sense that in Bihar it will be deletion, in Tamil Nadu it will be addition. This is a major, this will completely distort the electoral roll, electoral culture, electoral concept. Well, there are several other issues also. I don't want to go into the detail because better experts than me will be speaking. Aruna is there and other people are there. See, the question is that they have to frame a rule. Similarly, what are the documents required? They are doing it as if it's a kind of sabji mandi. Sabji mandi ye laga do, wo laga do, wo laga do. I mean, there has to be a clear documentation. What for you did this documentation? What you are supposed to prove? Then they are completely scrapping the earlier list. Everything is de novo. Everything is de novo. A list under which election was conducted a couple of months ago, and last year a Lok Sabha was formed, it has been scrapped completely. You have to now fall completely de novo enumeration forms. What is this exercise? I don't understand. So, in my view, the entire thing is a fraudulent exercise, and a fraud need to be resisted. So, the resolution passed in the Chennai conclave was no to SIR. We are now going to accept your SIR because the entire exercise was done in a very secretive manner without any consultation. Then, for the consideration of this group that we are now, the point we are going to make out is, all right, we can't say outright no, there may be problems, but let us have irrevocable conditions without which SIR should not proceed. My suggestion would be two irrevocable conditions which has to be fulfilled before you start this so-called SIR. One is a well laid down set of rules must be framed in consultation with the civil society, experts, political parties, openly notified, covering every aspect, lessons learned from Bihar experience and other experiences, similar experiences, whatever might have happened in 2003, which I think Aruna and Nikhil knows about. They have some information on that. They will share it with us. Whatever was done in 2003, some practice was done, and accordingly, clearly laid down, laid down clearly what is an ordinary resident, what is a migrant, and various other things. A clear legal rule framework must be framed, and only then they must start the SIR. Number two, complete social audit. At the end of the day, votes are not, the voters list is not meant for the election commission. It is not meant for Ganesh Kumar and company. It is meant for every voter. So he or she has every right to see that the voters list is absolutely done in a honest and manner and sincere manner and is correct, and it must be audited by them. At the end of the day, he or she is the voter. She is the mandating stakeholder. She is the mandating stakeholder. Election Commission is nothing but a facilitator. And political parties are beneficiary stakeholders. So the primary stakeholder is the voter. So the social audit, about which Aruna and Nikhil will share their experience with us. I think they did it in Rajasthan. So it can be done now, and it must be mandated in the part of the rule. Rule must very clearly says these are things that how the auditing should take place. My suggestion, of course, practically having known the country's landscape that we have, in villages and village panchayats, it will be done in panchayats, village panchayats, by reading out the list. And in small towns, it can be ward committees, and big cities, it could be a combination of ward committees and residential welfare associations. But there has to be a mechanism where people's total involvement must be there. It is not a Sarkari list. Sarkar, so like in this Chennai conclave, Prakara Prabhakar said something interesting. Democracy is supposed to be people selecting the government. Now the government is selecting the people and rejecting those who will not vote for them. So this kind of nonsense cannot go on. So let us deliberate, come to a conclusion, give a clear recommendation, and take it forward. Even if there is a need for civil disobedience, we may have to give a call for civil disobedience. There can't be a better cause for civil disobedience than this one. With this, I will conclude. And but we must arrive at a consensus and give our recommendation as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Aruna ji to please speak.
Thank you very much, Deva and Comrade Franco. Nikhil and I are both here together and we share the same body of experience. So what I'm going to do is say a few words in introduction of what we want to discuss, and then Nikhil will take over and talk about the details of our experience in 2003 and subsequent issues that have arisen for today's condition that we are all in. So the thing is that in 2003, we did do a series of social audits, which were very effective. And we had joint meetings with the State Election Commission and with all the representatives, including Mr. Lindo, who had come down to Rajasthan for that purpose. So there was a consensus from civil society as well as the Election Commission about what should be done to verify, to make sure that the rolls were in order. Now we have an extremely different scenario, but nevertheless, that experience has some relevance. And Nikhil is going to talk about it in detail. One thing I like to say about the present scenario, while we people who form the more intellectual side of civil society are very aware of what's going to happen with the SIR, people at large simply do not understand the mechanisms of it to quite the same degree that they should. And unless there is going to be a very strong people's movement against it, and where citizens from all across society, from the village panchayat to the national level, all object to it, there's going to be really no response from this cussed government that we have today. So one of the present strategies that the Suchna Rozgar Abhiyan, which is a conglomerate of all civil society organizations in Rajasthan, is going to set in motion very soon, is walk from village to village, talking to people from different parts of the state, and congregate at Jaipur, in which one of the most important issues we are going to discuss with people in every village and every town we cross is the SIR. But I will now request Nikhil to take it forward. There's no point hearing the same story from two different people. So Nikhil will be the spokesperson on our behalf.
Yeah, so just to follow up on what Mr. Devasahayam said, there have to be two conditions. We completely agree. They are two necessary but actually not sufficient conditions, because the first condition is a general consultation before any particular thing is taken up. Now, that consultation is of course necessary, but at the end of the consultation, they can again do something that is not acceptable. And I think on SIR, one of the most important things, this current so-called SIR exercise, one of the most important things is that we must keep overall emphasizing that the existing role has to be the base role. You cannot start with saying that the people have to come and put forward a whole bunch of documents and their photographs and fill forms. That is completely unacceptable. And that, even if they do a consultation and at the end of that arrive at that, that is an unacceptable thing that all of us should say, I think. But yes, the consultation should be there, and social audit. So I'll just concentrate on that part of it, which again, I just want to re-emphasize. First thing that all of us must state is that the existing roles must be the base role, and in that you bring claims and objections. There is no reason for you to go out and say that people have to put themselves on the rolls, and the claims and objections, the responsibility of collating all of that, of getting it and keeping the electoral rolls proper, should be of the Election Commission as a facilitator, as Mr. Devasahayam said. And therefore, the best possible way of doing that, of revising roles, which is sometimes a regular process, sometimes a intensive process, sometimes a so-called special intensive process. These mean nothing. And as Mr. Devasahayam said, there is no definition of what constitutes a special intensive process. we do know, and maybe that's where the name came from, that in 2003, Mr. Lingo, and I'll just give this as a little bit of an introduction to the thing, was engaging in something. He kept talking to us. The Election Commission used to talk to everyone. We, along with ADR, had met them, the whole commission, and we had asked them to come to Rajasthan before the elections that were to take place to those 5 states and hear some of our issues. And he kept talking about the problems with the electoral rolls, which all of us also talk about. It's not only government talking about it, all of us talk about them. But the method of how to correct that is something that at that time we felt strongly had to go to the people. And in going to the people, we had this method of social audits, which is basically auditing by the people. Now, I'm preparing a note which Mr. Devasahayam asked me to prepare, and we've sent a couple of news items based on that at that period. But we had been started doing first Jan Sunwais, and then those had become by 2003 a process of social audit, mainly in panchayat works, which said that the people of the panchayat should be the ones who should be able to tell you, have they received a benefit or not? Is this a program they want or not? Is the program run as it should be? And that should be based on some necessary conditions. By then, it was fairly clear what those necessary conditions are. And I will take a little bit of a jump and I'll go through that this is not some in-the-air process. It has become part of the legal framework of NREGA. And the Comptroller and Auditor General has actually made social audit standards, which are very useful for this exercise. Those standards are made primarily for NREGA, but they are supposed to apply everywhere. And the Supreme Court has endorsed those standards and applied it to a number of other laws apart from NREGA. So elections should be an ideal place where you place them. Now, what does that standard do? Social audits basically are defined in that. It's not just some bunch of people getting together. It's defined as a democratic mode so that all people concerned, individuals and collectives, are empowered and facilitated to look at the entire process through planning, implementation, as well as monitoring of any particular process that is being publicly audited. It requires a base document to be made available at all times, and particularly 15 days before social audit exercise. And what is a social audit exercise? The announcement that there will be a public meeting where all those documents will be read out aloud. 15 days in advance of that, those documents to be made available publicly. Any changes based on reality to be made available publicly, and any changes based on either people's feedback or any other facilitator's feedback to be read aloud so that claims and objections are there. All that to be recorded in a public meeting where everyone is facilitated to speak, allowed to speak, and based on the reading out aloud, that meeting today, all the NREGA social audits, for instance, are to be video recorded and to be kept. And on the basis of that, a report is to be uploaded saying this is what the social audit found. And in 1 month, an action taken report is to be uploaded in the public domain. So it's an entire public domain exercise, but it is very locally intensive. Now, why is this useful here? So I'll again go back to with Mr. Lingdo when we said that this should be done for electoral rolls, it's ideal. He said, yes, I agree with you, but we have almost reached the point where we are going to come do elections, and we've been through this special process. Actually, that's where some of these words may have come in. And we have really made every effort to clean up the electoral rolls, but I still don't feel confident and I don't know what to do. And I welcome any suggestions, but do we have the time? So he left that meeting, which was, I think, in July, saying we don't know. But as soon as he reached Delhi, the Election Commission sat and issued orders for the 5 states that this process of social audit will take place in the Gram Sabha and Ward Sabha. That's the unit that they gave. Because by then, Rajasthan had a Ward Sabha where things had to be audited in any case, lower than the even the Gram Panchayat level, lower than the Gram Sabha. he called Aruna, I remember, and this is about 10 or 12 days later. And he said, you know, we have issued these orders. I never expected anything really to come out of this because we've broken our heads to do whatever we could. But incredibly, there have been 7 lakh changes based on this exercise that's taken place. And I did not expect that at all. So that figure was all incorporated, and it was based on everywhere it did not take place. There wasn't enough time. There hadn't been enough training. It wasn't an exercise where there was a unit doing it. But today there is a social audit unit in every state because of NREGA. Today the CAG is trying to apply social audits across the board. And I want to reiterate once more that we should not have a scenario where we are saying that this is okay, we accept the SIR and you add this. We should say no matter what revision takes place, this exercise, this is what we are asking for. And we should say the SIR cannot be based on a new system of people coming in, putting their names like Aadhaar registration or registration for anything else. So therefore, it's extremely important that we say that this is a necessary condition regardless of anything else. And our second demand is that the SIR must be based on revising the existing roles where in front of the Gram Sabha, Ward Sabha, or what we have been demanding of late is that there should be a booth level social audit. And the BLO must be present, and that must be video recorded, and all the other social audit standards should be followed, which is that all electoral rolls should be hung in public for 15 days before. All claims and objections must come up before that Gram Sabha, and everyone should be invited, including competing political parties, because they have the biggest interest in attendance. And we feel that even if just those political party representatives of every booth turn up, they will make sure that wrong names do not come, and they will make sure the names that need to be added will be added, and there will be others to counterbalance and do a proper monitoring exercise. So for electoral rolls, it's extremely useful. In some other things, people don't have the guts to speak or enough vested interest to speak. But here, the balance that democracy provides through political parties would be there if we could get this in. And we really don't see the logic of it not being there. We are unfortunately have not been able to lay our hands on those orders of 2003. I've been to the chief electoral officer in Rajasthan. He said, where will we find 2003 records? We have put in an RTI, but it will take its own time. We've just only recently put in the RTI, but we have the things of around that. We will also use the administration, because that meeting when Mr. Lingdo came was attended by the chief secretary and all the chief electoral officer and the state election commissioner. Last thing I want to say is that if the election commission were not to agree, nothing stops citizens from doing this exercise. And that's why Aruna said during this yatra, we will try and do in multiple places some social audit, which is citizen-led, where we invite the BLO, we mandate the BLO to come because it's his job or her job to see whatever is being done. And we look at it in a booth level or a Gram Panchayat level. And we go to friendly governments and say, why don't you do this exercise through Gram Sabhas and Ward Sabhas, where you put out the existing electoral list yourself and you record it in the Gram Sabha minutes as this is happening. And even if they can't do that with the Assembly and Lok Sabha things, they have full capacity to be able to do it with the Panchayat rolls, which are a separate set of rolls, as all of you know, with the State Election Commission working on this. So they can show then the contrast between what happens if there is a manipulated role and what happens when you do a proper social audit, participatory democratic exercise. There will be shortcomings in this, but it's much better than any other thing, regardless of whether there was an SIR or not. Thank you. I will send a note of this in another 2 hours.
Thank you very much, Nikhil ji. There are many questions which we will take up later. Now I request Taraji to please speak. Taraji, please unmute and speak. You are already a host.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to focus on how we go forward in terms of participation of networks and so on across states, especially looking at the 12 states that have been now identified for SIR with their voter lists being ready by the 7th of February. And with that process starting on the 4th of November. So given what the content, and it's very useful to understand, and it's very useful to know that 2003, a precedent was set. It was a successful one. This gives a lot of, I think, hope and strength to the way we push back on the Election Commission, which has been banging on about 2003, but obviously not following all elements that were covered back then. So I think in terms of us going forward, there are sort of three elements I feel that need to be sort of put in place. One is, of course, how the Election Commission is going to go forward and how do we influence that? What is that administrative machinery that was sort of spoken a little bit about, and how that should be put in place with civil society participation also. And thirdly, what is going to be that element of the election watch process, meaning right from the electoral roll side of things. I think if we could draw up the conditions and standards or guidelines based on our previous experience and taking into consideration the conditions we have today, if we were to draw that up, to make those public as across those states with press conferences and so on and so forth, and also approach, as Nikhil also mentioned, that approaching states, governments there on how they could proceed. For instance, in Chennai, we had the meeting a few days ago, and I think the DMK is well aware of this meeting taking place, and our channels are open with them, and they, with previous events, to have shown a certain high level of interest of how to push back. So I think we need to feed the right kind of approach going forward to them. And finally, I think that if all else fails as a mass protest, this Chennai resolution that was passed, and I think that can be shared, if not shared already, there were three parts to it: what we reject, what we demand, and what we need to do, what we are going to do. And this thing about raising alarm and taking mass action on the ground across states are the things that will happen. And I think they should be happening, and we need to mobilize ourselves with state level civil society engagement, which already has started in a fair amount of states. I would say at least 10 or 12 have already been engaged with the Chennai process and were present and have discussed stuff about raising the alarm and so on and so forth. So I think if we were to get the content together of what we are saying clearly, and then put it out as civil society, pressure the state governments where possible, and mobilize ourselves on the ground in terms of raising the alarm. What is the threat? That is what raising the alarm is, and how we are going to go forward in pushing back as we, the people, the electorate of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dharaji. There are number of questions in the chat box. I will read them one by one. Whoever can answer, I will be happy.
Franco, it will be better if we invite one or two senior people here. For instance, Devasahayam is something. They have their own views because they are senior administrators. They would like to say something on this issue.
Yeah. Okay. Abhay Shuklaji, you can speak. You have already posted a question in the...
Aved and Raja, and then of course Aditi is there. They've all done elections, so they have their experience. They would like to share it with us. Aved, please.
Nancy, please permit Abhay Shuklaji to speak.
One second. I've already given him the permission, Comrade Franco.
Right. Next, you give it to Raja sir and then to Aditi.
Aditi. Aved, will you please unmute and speak?
I think you need to unmute. We can't hear you.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning to everyone. I just have one point, and this is something I've been maintaining for some time, that given the track record of the Election Commission and the overwhelming support it enjoys from the ruling party, it doesn't appear likely that it's going to give in to public pressure and public demands. The Supreme Court has been a big disappointment. And as Mr. Devasahayam had also said earlier, it has let us down in the sense that the constitutional challenge to the SIR has been converted by the court into some kind of a grievance redressal system for the Bihar SIR. The constitutionality of the SIR appears to have been sidetracked by the Supreme Court in the previous hearings that had been going on for the last 2 or 3 months for the Bihar SIR. And I don't think that particular attitude or bent of mind is going to change now that the SIR has been rolled out across 12 states. And I heard today on this program itself that a legal challenge to it has also already been filed in the Supreme Court. My personal feeling is that nothing is going to change either with the government or the Election Commission or the Supreme Court. We will get some minor a little bit of change here or a little bit of change here, but the points being raised by the previous speakers here go much deeper than that. And unless they are addressed, the SIR will in essence remain what the Election Commission wants it to remain, which is a mechanism for exclusion rather than inclusion. So the question which I had raised was, should we not at some time appeal to the opposition parties that realize the facts on the ground, or at least the facts in the corridors of power, and boycott the elections? If this is going to continue, if this system and this methodology is going to continue, my estimation is that about going by the Bihar figures of 70 lakh voters having been excluded, overall throughout the country, maybe about 70 million voters are going to be excluded. Now, what the breakup of this is, I don't really know at this point of time. I don't think anybody does. But if the figures I heard in another program, Yogendra Yadav had given out some figures yesterday about the exclusions in Bihar. Now, the population of Muslims in Bihar, according to Yogendra Yadav, is between 16 to 17%. But amongst the excluded, the Muslims constitute 27% of the exclusions. Now, if that is going to happen, and the demographic change also in certain states, which Mr. Devasahayam referred to earlier, is going to happen, regardless of the protests, public protests and civil society protests and challenges in the Supreme Court. Should we not at some stage smell the coffee and ask the opposition to boycott these elections instead of making themselves a party to it and thereby legitimizing the final results? You know, the BJP is smart. They will allow the opposition to win a few inconsequential states or a few inconsequential seats, but they will ensure that they have their thumb pressed on the jugular and retain the states and the seats which matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will take the questions together. I request Mr. VP Raja to please speak.
Thank you very much. I've heard all the previous speakers, and I've also been following up. I will just list the concerns I have. Number one, manipulating the electoral roll is a very old art. I've worked as a returning officer, I've worked as a chief election officer, and I've gone as observer of the Election Commission at least on 10 occasions to various parts of the country. On one occasion, when I had gone to Rajkot in Gujarat, that was almost 25 years ago perhaps, I could see how the electoral rolls had been manipulated. Because typically in those days, one assembly constituency used to have roughly about 1 lakh voters. And Rajkot had 3 assembly segments, Rajkot urban, Rajkot rural, and a third which is a mix of urban and rural. And one of the constituencies had as much as 130,000 voters. Clearly ab initio, kind of. So I went into the details of it. Of course, those days the Election Commission listened to the observers and took action. So I said, there is something prima facie wrong in this electoral roll. But the elections have already commenced. So they only advised that ensure that each of the representatives of political parties in the booths intelligently object whenever there is a problem. I did further inquiry in it and found that the entire thing had happened because the Rajkot Municipal Council, at that time I don't think it was a municipal corporation yet, the Rajkot Municipal Council had been with the BJP almost 12 to 15 years continuously. And it is the municipal employees who are the electoral registration officers. This is how the manipulation had taken place quite successfully. So that raises a generic issue of complicity of whichever kind of administrative staff which we use. And today that complicity is much greater because of the fear that has been created by the present regime on anybody in administration that trying to do something different from what the ruling regime wants, severe consequences will follow. All of us know that. We don't have to give examples of that. But that kind of a fear, it won't be wrong to say that what has been safeguarding us with all its ills were institutions. Institutions where there were some who were not up to the mark, but by and large, let us say, institutions functioned. Today, I don't think we can take that for granted. All institutions have got compromised. How do we handle this kind of a situation? Supreme Court's record, everybody knows. So I think we need to work out a strategy. We need to work out a plan of action, a set of strategies where we can't condemn all institutions, whether we should file at 3, 4, these 12 states going, whether petition should be filed in the 12 high courts. Of course, eventually it will all get added up and go to the Supreme Court. But even some interim orders from some of the high courts may tilt the balance for a little while. So like that, I think we need to work out strategies. And expose this continuously. I think that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Madam Aditi.
Comrade, can you repeat the name again?
Aditi Mehta.
Oh,
Aditi Ghosh Mehta.
yes, I've made her the co-host.
You're on mute, Aditi. If you can unmute yourself, please. I don't know whether she can hear us, but
You're
she's
on
speaking.
mute. Yeah, now you're okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
now.
okay. So I just have a short point to make. I mean, I agree with us all. I think we all are on the same boat. But one thing that completely baffles me, it's a huge administration, even Bihar. I mean, there are bound to be some people like you and me who just say, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And how come we've not encountered this? The opposition parties have kept quiet. Nobody is at the, when the penny really drops, where is the Lalu party? Where is Tejasvi? Where is Congress? Why have they not actually approached the district officers with as per due process? If in a village these 5,000 names have been omitted, or 500 houses have been added, or whatever it is, why don't they actually even follow the due process? I mean, I've been speaking to Nitin Sethi, I've been speaking to Siddharth Vardar. Why has that not happened? That is point one. And I actually am beginning to feel that the kind of sort of grassroots mobilization that is required at this granular level of actually refilling the forms and within time going to the district magistrate with the forms is either not happening or is happening incorrectly, or we are not getting the information. That's the point I'm trying to say. And this is my concern. And I am really a little undecided about whether the opposition will agree to boycott the elections, all the opposition. I mean, that might be one point of view, but at another level, I mean, you're already even asserting further the fact that, we have no democracy, and we're almost accepting the fact that there is no democracy in our country anymore. So I would say at a conscious level, what can be done is that local representatives of the political parties have to start actually doing the work that is attempted by people like Reporters Collective and like the Squint team and so on, and actually come up with proof and then prove them up as per the rules that today exist, that these are wrong. That's my point.
I'd like to add to what Aditya said. after the last assembly elections in Maharashtra, which are completely compromised elections, at least 6 to 8 gram panchayats, the local leadership conducted a re-election only in the gram panchayat to see how people are voting. But this was put down by brute force by the police. So that is the that is also a reality.
Yeah, Raja, let it be put down by brute force. That is also a piece of evidence. That is also news. But the fact that there has been no concerted opposition attempt at even nailing the lie, that is shocking. That is shocking.
Thank you. Nancy, please permit Premanand to speak.
Done, comrade.
Okay. So Premanand, you can speak.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Prem Anand. Basically, I'm a grassroots worker. The challenge is what we feel is that in Chennai is that when we go to the ward level, when we go to the ward level at different wards, in Chennai we have about 200 wards. When you go to ward levels and talk about the urban governance, where we talk about there's a lot of challenges from the local politicians. It is really difficult when you work in the ground. There is absolutely we are not supported in any way. Little like a mafia or a sort of environment we have to work. It is really difficult. So in this sort of environment, how do we have protection? In a small agitation, if we do, we absolutely have no protection at all. This is the real challenge which we feel with all spectrum of political parties.
Okay, that's the statement. Nancy, please permit Tamil Nadu Manavargal Sangam. There is a Tamil three-word person who is Anwar Badsha. Please permit him to speak.
Comrade.
Okay, Anwar Badsha, you can speak. Be brief, please. Next, you permit Usman. With that, I think we will conclude the questions.
This Manavar Sangam has put up his question.
Yeah, the question is there. I thought I will ask him to speak.
Not to speak. His question is very specific. We'll answer that.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Usman?
Usman has come out with a good suggestion. Let him speak if he's there. What happened?
Sorry, I'm in a public place, so I might not be properly audible. But the suggestion was, I mean, Mr. Shukla's comments kind of ring true, but at the same time, it isn't just our parties are not, or even our opposition parties are not, the best, or, when it comes to democracy and stuff like that. They don't actually have that kind of political heft to take like a moral decision on this. And, so I think they have to be pushed into doing that. And I kind of am on the same page with what Nikhil and Aruna was suggesting, that using institutions of local governance, if you can create a kind of campaign, a movement that reviews what this government is doing, and then that has the possibility of saying that has its own sort of weight, and that use that weight to say boycott. And then if you involve political parties in that, this is a very tall order. Involve political parties representatives in that. They are witness to that, where local democracy is saying we don't accept this, what is coming through the center. That can be one way in which the boycott is actually substantive rather than a substantive demand rather than just being a tokenistic kind of pledge. That's all.
See, we have this student leader here, Anwar Batsa. Would like to hear him because student force will be a very important force. He has put in a posting that he is rallying the students. Anwar Batsa, are you there? Irkarappa?
Hi, sir.
You tell us something about the student force, what you are organizing. Tamil பேசுனா தமிழ்ல பேசுங்க.
Okay, sir. சார் இதை பத்தி எஸ்ஆர் பத்தி டீடைல்ஸ் சொல்லுமா இல்ல வேற எதுவும் டீடைல்ஸ் சொல்லுங்களா சார்?
ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் ஃபார்ஸ் இது வந்து ஒரு பப்ளிக் மூவ்மெண்டா வரணும். அதான் எல்லாரும் பேசிக்கிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அருணாவும் அதான் பேசினாங்க. பப்ளிக் மூவ்மெண்டா வர்றதுக்கு ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு இன்வால்வ்மெண்ட் ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியம். ஓகே.
ஆமா சார்.
நீங்க எந்த லெவல்ல நீங்க ஸ்டூடெண்ட் மூவ்மெண்ட் இப்போ இருக்கு, இந்த இதுல ஸ்டூடெண்ட் மூவ்மெண்ட் என்ன மாதிரி பார்ட்டிசிபேட் பண்ண முடியும்னு கொஞ்சம் சொல்ல முடியுமா?
ஓகே சார், சொல்றேன் சார்.
And Franco, you can translate into English. Yeah, please. சொல்லுங்க.
ஓகே சார். எஸ்ஆர் கமிஷன் பத்தி காரைக்குடி அழகப்பா யூனிவர்சிட்டியில சில ஸ்டூடெண்ட் மட்டும் நாங்க ஆர்கனைசேஷன் பண்ணோம், இதை பத்தி என்ன செய்யலாம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு. அப்ப இது சம்பந்தமா எங்க கூட படிக்கிற அந்த ஓசனோகிராஃபி டிபார்ட்மெண்ட்ல படிக்கிற ஒரு பீகார் ஸ்டூடெண்ட் கிட்ட கேட்டோம். சொல்லப்போனா அவங்களுடைய அட்ரஸ்மே வந்து இந்த பீகார்ல வந்து எப்படின்னா சேஞ்ச் ஆயிருக்கு. கிட்டத்தட்ட அவங்க வீட்டுல இருக்க 7 பேருக்கும் வந்து அவங்க ஒருத்தவங்க வீட்லயே வந்து 13 பேரு வந்து இது பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. எக்ஸ்ட்ரா உள்ள அந்த 6 பேரும் வந்து யாருன்னு சொல்லிட்டு அந்த வீட்டுல இருக்க பையனுக்கு இன்ன வரைக்கும் தெரியாது. இதுக்கெல்லாம் என்ன பண்றது அப்படின்னு சொன்னோம்னு சொன்னா நிறைய விஷயங்கள் எடுத்தோம். அப்ப இதுக்காக வந்து ஒரு திட்டங்களை வகுத்து கொடுக்கணும். ஏன்னா எங்களுக்கு வந்து இது சம்பந்தமா முழுமையான தகவலோ அதுவோ எதுவும் தெரியல. பாதி தகவல் மட்டும்தான் இது எங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருக்கு. இது முழுமையான தகவல் தெரிஞ்சிச்சுன்னு சொன்னா தமிழ்நாட்டில் இருக்கக்கூடிய பல்கலைக்கழகத்தில் படிக்கிறவங்க மாணவர்களுக்கும் கல்லூரி மாணவர்களுக்கும் எங்க தரப்புல இருந்து எடுத்து சொல்லி இது விழிப்புணர்வா செய்வோம். இன்னும் சொல்ல போனா இதுக்கு வீரியமான போராட்டங்கள் செய்யணும்னாலும் மாணவர்கள் சார்பாக இதை எதிர்த்து வீரியமான போராட்டம் செய்யவும் தயாரா இருக்கும்.
Okay.
Yeah, I will translate. He was saying that he is part of the students' movement, and one of his colleagues from Bihar who is studying with him, his name itself is deleted, and in their house 6 people have been added whom they don't know who are these people, but they are not having adequate information to build up a movement. They are ready to build up a movement if they get total clarity, and they are willing to mobilize the students for agitation also.
When satisfied, then they're coming back up. No?
Good.
They will be satisfied now.
That's a good one.
That's negative, no?
Any other questions?
Suhash ji has raised a question, sir. You can look at it and reply.
Thomas, please say if there is possibility of the youth movements announcing boycott of voting.
Yeah, Suhash ji is with People's Movements for a very long time.
Boycott of voting is not the issue we are talking about. We are talking about the intensive revision of the electoral rule at this point of time. Voting will come only during the election time. That Mr. Abhay Shukla has already mentioned. He's talked about the boycott.
No, what I'm suggesting is during the interaction with the people as voters, when we say that the at large voters, because youth has a large number and especially BJP is eyeing on them. So if we could mobilize the youth to say that we refuse to accept the idea of SIR in the way that it was done in Bihar, and if that is imposed on us, then we will all boycott the voting.
And one will also find out about his family.
In the chat, I wrote it in short.
Boycotting voting will come later.
Because that is the
Now
problem.
talk about the SIR. Boycotting
I
SIR
know
is
it comes
the first step.
later, but
It's the first step.
to pressurize those in power not to conduct the SIR in the way they did in Bihar.
Okay, Suhaji, I understand. Let us discuss it. Sir, I had also raised a few questions. Number one, Tamil Nadu has political parties have a confidence that as they have BLAs everywhere, manipulations cannot be that possible like it happened in Bihar. Secondly, this social audit. Now they have said that average 1,200 people will be in one booth. Panchayats are very big. Municipalities, wards are very big. Can't we demand a booth level social audit? These are my questions. Now you can start answering, sir. Thank you.
No, actually, this issue, the social audit, I think Nikhil is a better person to respond.
Yeah, for the rest of the questions, you start with, sir.
The other issue, I'll respond. Okay. Nikhil, can you please come on this?
Yeah. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you and then you disappear.
Oh.
Back again, yeah.
Yeah, it got muted. I don't know, it's getting muted from somewhere else. Anyway,
okay.
If I get muted, I'll try again. But yeah, so there are few set of questions. There are a few responses that address that I can address on a suggestion of this social audit kind of exercise as being insisted on. I want to say that one of the things that what Mr. Ave Shukla said, I was in contact with a lot of the political parties, people during this Bihar exercise. I don't think it's a fact that they did not protest. They protested a lot, were very concerned with it, were tracking the court case. But boycott is something I found even when they were completely convinced that the EVMs, for instance, the whole lot of parties that wanted 100% VVPAT count or wanted EVM manipulation to stop, boycott is not something they ever saw as a possible option. So I think the reality is they are the only ones who can think of a mass boycott. That would make a difference. But the unfortunate thing vis-a-vis boycott is that, and this I have spoken to individually to important people both in the Congress, in RJD and in CPI-ML, and they themselves said people are trying to talk about boycott, but that's not a practical option. So I just want to say that to begin with. Where I do think political parties, and I think in our whole idea of trying to do these Ward Sabha, Gram Sabhas, is to go to political parties to say, please, see, there is no argument. Nobody can make an argument, and that everyone has said that you need better electoral rolls and you need periodic revisions and you need non-manipulated electoral rolls. So that's fine. But this special intensive revision is a super method of doing manipulation because you're bringing in a completely arbitrary process, and you brought in for the first time ever this process of saying, okay, now you have to go in yourself, put your names on. And God knows how many times they'll do this if this is considered as a precedent. So that essential thing, even in 2003, when we did the social audit, we were working with existing electoral rolls. We were not working to say that you will create a new electoral roll based on people's applications. That will never happen. Half the population doesn't go to vote, leave alone trying to get onto the electoral rolls. So it just opens itself up for massive manipulation. And so if parties could be, because we have combined, our voice is much less, but they have a great stake in this. If we can convince parties to say, yes, fine, we want revisions, intensive revisions, special intensive revisions, but not of this kind. An alternative is to do mandatory Ward Sabha, Gram Sabhas. We will also be present. People will also be present. Everyone can be present there. Based on that, you do whatever revision you want to do. Any changes in name should be based on claims and objections in a Gram Sabha, Ward Sabha, or a booth level Sabha. Booth level Sabha is certainly possible. A booth level officer stands there. There's a 15-day process. It's done in something as broad and extensive as Narega, where there are 15 crore workers, where it's done once a year, where there are detailed records which are put out. This is relatively simple. And as I said to begin with, there is a vested interest of competing parties to be there, so it produces a kind of a balance. This is something civil society on its own can never do, because it just does not have the presence everywhere, but parties have a presence in every booth, in every area. If not one party, then some other opposition party or someone who sees themselves as that. And I think we should tap into it. So it's something that I feel we should, in a combined sense, there's a note that we were asked to prepare, we will prepare it. We should take it to parties and we should ask them to demand from the Election Commission that you drop this revision based on people putting their own names and this mass kind of very, very impractical exercise, and you replace it with this. And this will mean your existing roles continue, but you say a social audit exercise has to be there for the revision process before any revision takes place. And that is, there can be nothing more intensive than doing it at a booth level or a Gram Sabha or Ward Sabha level, reading it aloud, taking claims and objections. That is the most intensive special exercise you can do. And that's how it should be presented. Not that, but this, and this in any case, even if you were to not do that, this is something we want, because it will help in many ways. I do think that Rajasthan, we were at a time when we had much less contact. We saw that just when something becomes orders, and what Aditi was talking about, if it becomes part of the rules, what again Mr. Devasahayam was talking about, this should be the rule. And we can propose a draft set of rules as well for something that is a legitimate process now. I think it'll give us something concrete, positive to push towards. And eventually, if this matter, we did not take it to court because we didn't want some summary rejection, but if it is exercised as a kind of a demand, mass demand across parties, at least opposition parties, then when it goes to court, it'll have much more weight if it goes to court. What is the logic of not doing this? So,
I think I would like
Taraji,
yeah, Tara.
Sir, Taraji has raised her hand. Taraji has raised her hand. Shall I ask her to speak and you conclude?
Let Tara say what she has to say.
No, so, I mean, there are a couple of things. One is that, the 2003 sets up some kind of a precedent which the Election Commission even currently has been using as 2003 as the basis for doing the SIR. So I think there is an argument to be made there on what basis we can continue. Secondly, because of this Chennai meeting, there is already one process of going to the ground across a network of states, which is this AIM 24, which is 24 states, which were also active during the general elections. Now, what is required in that, I mean, we have the Chennai resolutions as to what we demand and reject. But what we require is, what are these guidelines we are going to suggest, and say that they are unconditional guidelines that have to be, this is the only way that an SIR can enter a state. This is where we want to go. And we want to go making sure that the alarm is raised amongst the people. That also is going on simultaneously. And at the same time, we are making it vocal that these are the conditions and this is the only way. That is, we can say that nothing is ever enough. But the point is the visibility of the pushback that needs to come from multiple states needs to begin immediately, because time is so short. So what we, especially this particular this particular initiative that has begun needs this input. And I think this input can come from this group to say what are those guidelines or standards which were also used in 2003, and we will only sign up to those.
Yeah, to respond to what Tara says, see, that's precisely what Nikhil has been speaking about. He is already preparing a paper, and he concluded by saying that we should have a draft model rule. I totally agree with Nikhil. I would request him to put it in the form of a draft model rule, which we can push to the political parties immediately. So the point number one is, now let me respond to Avay Shukla and also another question before I come to the major part. Avay's point about boycotting the election, we did discuss this among certain political parties on a broader extent. There is a reluctance on the part of the political parties to boycott elections. They feel that they will become irrelevant. So India's, see, Bangladesh, they did, boycotting did take place, and that led to the complete throwing out of the government. There are smaller countries, this had happened. India is too big a country and too much of competition, political competition. So boycott doesn't seem to be the idea that civil society will moot. So that's why we have not formally mooted the idea of boycotting the elections. But we can moot the idea of civil disobedience. You see, civil disobedience in an earlier step. That, for instance, SIR, just because Ganesh Kumar has issued orders, does not mean that we have to obey. We can say thank you very much. Unless you do these things, we will not get lost. That we have every right. That's where the civil disobedience comes in. For that only we have to lay down guidelines. That guidelines is the one I think Tara is also talking about. So the point we are trying to make is that let us decide on the guidelines. As we have said, let us, and fortunately, in Tamil Nadu, the major political parties and civil society are on the same wavelength. So it will be easier for us to push. And Chief Minister has yesterday made a very categorical, I was listening to his speech. He has made a very categorical statement without any sort of, without pulling any punches. So I think Tamil Nadu is a fertile ground for this experiment to succeed. And we have student leaders also here. Students also can be mobilized. So that I think should be the strategy. For that, we need a basic paper with, I think we request as part of this, it can be an expansion of the social audit. Social audit could be the epicenter of our attack. Single point. Social audit, elaborately defining what is social audit, and rule, a properly notified rule for conducting social audit, so that all the hierarchy 420 goes away, and you can purify the so-called purify the electoral system also, if they want to, with the sanction of the people who are the ultimate owners of the voters list and the electoral process. So there was this question by Anwar Badshah, what does the Constitution of India say? There is no mention of SIR in the Constitution, neither in the law. So SIR is a rogue entity. As I said, SIR is a rogue entity. So I think let us resolve on this strategy, which we can push to political parties straight away, write to all the political parties, particularly in the active states like Tamil Nadu. Of course, Rajasthan is already there, and other places. So I think I would recommend this is the line of action. Let us have a draft rule with social audit as the epicenter, and other points which can be brought in, which I think we have already discussed now, which are the other points that should come in as part of the rules. a draft model rule. Would that be all right, Nikhil? I think, would you try to attempt that?
Yeah, I
After the-
can try and do that, but I'll require a little more time than the note that I was going to give this afternoon. That note I will give in any case.
Let the note come first. This
Yeah.
can follow that. Yes.
Yeah, we will get a whole group of people together.
Yeah.
So Aruna can convene a meeting with several others who we get involved with in drafting of our rules for many of these laws we've been
Yes.
fighting for.
Yes.
But the note we will send today, later, and then on the note we can get comments from any of you if you have particular things, and then that note is just on social audit. That note will form the, as you say, the epicenter of a set of suggested rules for any revision. Special intensive revision. We will call it rules for special intensive revision.
Yeah.
Sir,
Franco,
I have asked Mr. Prashant Bhushan to get the copy of that 2003 whatever guideline was issued.
has he got it?
Hopefully by he was in the court. He has asked his junior to share it with me. Hopefully after the meeting I will just follow up.
They have the copy, is it?
Yes, he presented it to the court, no?
Oh.